You are listening to part 51 of our series, 7 Medicines, The Wise Woman Way with Susan Weed at Time Monk Radio. Hello, Susan, and welcome back to Time Monk Radio.
Hi, Gemini. I hope I haven't been stressing you out with all this information about blood pressure drugs.
No, not stressing me out. It's quite remarkable information, though.
I wouldn't want to raise your blood pressure. You have blood pressure drugs.
Well, it sounds like I eat some of the foods and take some of the herbs, so I'm probably balancing all that out.
Probably are. Yeah, you know, I'm, I guess, hereditarily lucky in that I've always had fairly low blood pressure, and have been glad to be able to maintain that into my later years here. As a matter of fact, my most recent blood pressure reading, I think, was 102/80, which is not bad for a 70-year-old.
Not bad at all.
Yeah, and again, just to remind us all that although we're talking about blood pressure, what we're really talking about is heart pressure. How hard does the heart have to pump? How much pressure does the heart have to put out to get that blood through the circulatory system? How stiff are those blood vessels? How much gunk is in the blood? And how much stress hormones are we dealing with? How much rigidity and constriction and inflammation do we have in our beings, in our psyches? A lot of these things have to do with blood pressure. So let's look at those famous lifestyle changes that lower blood pressure. And I want to give a shout out to Harvard Medical School Special Health Report on hypertension for the specific information that I could give you here. So we can say that meditation for as little as 5 minutes a day will reduce the upper reading by 20 points within 10 to 12 weeks. That's better than drugs. It doesn't have to be meditation. Any stress-relieving activity. Walking outdoors, swinging on a swing, gentle yoga, not hot yoga, not Bikram yoga, not, well, I'm going to do this as fast as I can yoga. Gentle yoga, sometimes called yin yoga, and of course, qigong and tai chi are also wonderful ways to bring about what's called the relaxation response. And the relaxation response trains your body to stop making all of those stress hormones, even when there's minor stress. What happens to some people is there's a minor stress, their body makes stress hormones, and they get into feeling like those stress hormones are normal. And then every time there's a slight stress, they make more and more of them until they're in a state of perpetual stress, perpetually making those hormones, which then make them more anxious, and then they make more hormones, and then they get more stress. It's very, very difficult spiral, not to spiral down in, but we can change that with as little as 5 minutes a day of something stress-reducing. I was reading another article, and the author of that article installed a little fountain into her office, and she takes 5 minutes out of every hour in her day. It only has to be 5 minutes a day, but she decided to take 5 minutes an hour to simply sit and listen to the sound of the water. Wonderful way to lower your blood pressure. We all know that quitting smoking, and that means quitting, and not smokeless and not organic, but actually quitting smoking will lower your blood pressure, but not nearly as much as meditating. So if you're going to smoke, at least meditate. Quitting smoking will reduce that upper number by 8 to 10 points. So that's, it's not that much. But smoking also promotes the buildup of stuff inside the arteries. And once that stuff is built up in there, it can be harder to get rid of it. Alcohol is sometimes recommended for heart health, but it's not great for blood pressure. If you can limit your alcohol to 1 drink a day or less, you will drop your top number by 4 points, right? Hardly worth it. Meditate more. Lose weight. We're always told, lose weight, you have high blood pressure. Lose weight. Losing 10 pounds, and that's not easy, is going to drop your blood pressure by how much? 1 point for every pound lost. Yeah, that could make a difference, especially if your blood pressure is beyond pre-hypertension and beyond mild hypertension. If you're really up there in some high upper numbers, then a program to lose weight and get more fit can help lower your blood pressure pretty effectively. Understand that we have not much of a clue about what causes people to gain weight or which causes people to lose weight, but the biggest clue we have at the moment is gut flora. And so what I say to people is, rather than looking at what you're eating and trying to change what you're eating, just keep on eating what you're eating, but include half a cup of yogurt a day and at least 2 glasses of nourishing herbal infusion. For many people, those inclusions will so change gut flora that the body's tendency to find a different set point, a lower set point, will be magnified. Exercise? Is exercise any good in lowering blood pressure? Of course it is. For every day of the week that you exercise, you can reduce blood pressure by up to 1 point. All right, so it's not quite as good as meditating, is it? 5 minutes a day, you meditate, you drop your blood pressure 20 points. You have to exercise for 20 minutes, you only drop it by 1 point. Meditate while you exercise. Get some more of that good stuff going. Sleeping more. Remember I told you that thing that made me want to get more Z's was seeing what that did, what not getting enough sleep did to my blood pressure. So for every extra hour that you sleep, whatever it is you sleep now, for every extra hour you can add on, you can drop that upper number by 5 points. That's almost as good as meditating. That's a nice drop. What else? Reduce salt. Up to 75% of the salt in the American diet comes from processed food, food in restaurants, and canned food. So cook your own meals is the easiest way to reduce salt. And if you eat no processed food and no food from restaurants or very occasionally, you will drop that upper number by 20 points. So while you are eating less salt, meditate, and that will give you a tremendous drop in blood pressure. The DASH diet is a diet that was first promoted for losing weight. It's considered to be a semi-vegetarian diet, and I often joke to people, although I certainly do not eat a vegetarian diet, I probably eat more vegetables than the vast majority of vegetarians. And so this is what we're really focusing on, getting more vegetables into the diet, especially the foods and vegetables that we are going to focus in on and to help us see what foods will help us reduce blood pressure. The DASH diet, which has more veggies, more whole grains, and less red meat, will lower that upper number by about 14 points, and that's a good amount. Know that any lowering of 10 or more is going to put you into usually a different category. So these are very significant drops in blood pressure that we are getting. There's lots and lots and lots of foods that can help us in our quest to have healthy blood pressure. We're going to talk about some of these foods in general, and then we're going to talk about some of the foods in more detail. So these fruits are the fruits that are the best known for lowering blood pressure. Apples, bananas, blueberries, in fact, berries of all kinds, including cranberries, figs, grapes, and that includes dried grapes, which are raisins, oranges, and pomegranates. Vegetables, beets and broccoli, celery, dandelion greens, garlic, mushrooms, parsley, potatoes, seaweed, and spinach. So all those leafy greens. And, of course, we could put our nourishing herbal infusion in that category of vegetables. Drinking 8 ounces, which is a cup, of beetroot juice, best if it is from the cooked beets. So in other words, you take beets from the supermarket, cover them in cold water, bring it up to a boil, cook the beets until the beets are soft and tender, and then save the water you cooked the beets in. That's your beetroot juice. And drink a cup of it, 8 ounces a day, every day, and that will decrease your blood pressure about as quickly and about as much as any of those drugs that we talked about. Beetroot juice is loaded with nitrate, which turns into nitric oxide in the body. Yep, that's nitroglycerin. It widens the blood vessels, increases blood flow, and helps your blood pressure come down. Like potatoes, turns out the plant compounds in potatoes act like ACE inhibitors. To get these compounds, soak potatoes in water for an hour before cooking them. This will increase the amount of available vitamin C and of this special substance that acts like an ACE inhibitor that can then relax your blood vessels. Purple potatoes have the most of this compound, and there are more and more purple potatoes on the market. Purple potatoes also contain anthocyanins, antioxidant compounds that are especially healthy for the heart. What kind of fats? Olive oil, avocados, salmon, herring, sardines, anchovies, and coconut oil is just fine too. Changing your cooking fat to sesame oil can cause a lowering of blood pressure, which is about as fast and about the same amount as any drugs. Sesame seeds contain sesamin, sesamol, and sesamolin, which are special fatty acids and antioxidants that have a profound effect on the blood vessels. I don't like to use oils other than the ones I talked about: olive oil, coconut oil, little avocado oil. So I don't like to use sesame oil, although I have a bottle of dark sesame oil in the kitchen, and I do use it for finishing things. It has such an umami flavor. Just the tiniest bit floated on top of a soup gives it such an elegant and wonderful aroma. So instead, what I use is gamasio. Goma is sesame, shio is salt in Japanese. Goma shio is sesame salt. I make it by throwing a handful of Nereocystis kelp into my cast iron frying pan, and with the heat on low, gently toasting that seaweed until it's very crisp. I then push it to one side of the pan and pour in a pound of sesame seeds. I roast the sesame seeds in the cast iron skillet, eventually stirring the seaweed into them and stirring with a wooden spoon pretty much the whole time. You know, you can take a bathroom break if you need to, but those sesame seeds are going to be jumping and popping and hopping, and you're going to be standing there. And how dark you roast them, well, that's part of the art of making gamasio. Some people like a lighter roast in the summer and a darker roast in the wintertime. Get more of that yang heat energy in there. Once the sesame seeds have been roasted, I turn off the fire and let them cool. And once they've been cooled, I put them in a machine. I have a little mini prep machine, which I find works better than a blender, but a blender will do. So I put the roasted sesame seed with its seaweed and a little bit of table salt, maybe a pinch or two per cup, into my machine and grind those sesame seeds down. Now be careful, because if you grind them down too far, you're going to have tahini, which is sesame paste, and we don't want that. We just want the sesame seeds ground up so that we can digest them and get all of those special fatty acids and antioxidants that sesame offers us. Grains, oats, there's a heart on the oats box, isn't there? Buckwheat, which is known as kasha, flax seeds, lentils. In fact, eating 2 tablespoons of flaxseed cooked in muffins or bread will cause significant lowering of blood pressure within 6 months. And it doesn't just lower blood pressure. It lowers your risk of a heart attack by 30% and your risk of a stroke by 50%. Let me be clear. It's a significant quantity of flaxseed. It's 2 tablespoons of flaxseed. They do need to be ground, and they do need to be cooked. And no, flaxseed oil, unfortunately, is not a substitute for the ground cooked flaxseed. But extra added benefit to eating that ground cooked flaxseed, we have some really stunning studies showing the reversal of early-stage prostate and early-stage breast cancer among people who ate that 2 tablespoons of ground-cooked flaxseed in a muffin, a pancake, some kind of bread, cereal, whatever you want to put it in, so long as it's cooked. Really interesting studies in which the cancers seemed to actually disappear. Many people have hoped for those kinds of results from flaxseed oil, but not gotten it. Let's look at some specific foods that can help us when we're dealing with high blood pressure. Berries is always where I like to start off. Blueberries, bilberries, huckleberries, cranberries, hawthorn haws, apples, plums, cherries, elderberries, blackberries. They all do the same great things. They improve blood vessel functioning. The elasticity of blood vessels in volunteers improved within an hour after ingesting a blueberry drink. Just from that one blueberry drink, 2 hours afterward, the blood vessel elasticity was still improving. 6 hours after consumption, it was still improving. A dose of half a glass, a full glass, and even more basically gave the same results. So you don't have to overdo it with your blueberry drink. The most active constituents in the blueberries, polyphenols and anthocyanins, are found in many colorful plant foods. In fact, the Antioxidants Research Lab at Tufts has found that regular daily consumption of flavonoids from plant foods such as berries, dark chocolate, green tea, and red wine reduces the risk of all major chronic diseases, including heart disease. Blueberry flavonoids inhibit an enzyme that reduces nitric oxide levels in the blood. I know that's a double negative, but what it means is there's more nitric oxide, and that, as we've learned, allows those blood vessels to dilate, reducing the risk of stroke. There are so many herbalists who are deeply into blueberry, but 2 of my favorite herbalists who are very into blueberry are David Winston and David Hoffman. David Hoffman is got a huge number of studies showing that virtually all circulatory problems, whether they're in the eyes, the kidneys, the legs, or the blood vessels themselves, respond to blueberries. Blueberries change capillary rigidity and permeability-related pathologies such as hypertension with amazing force and speed. David Hoffman also says that laboratory research has confirmed that regular ingestion of blueberries increases the strength and flexibility of the capillaries while reducing their permeability, inhibits edema, protects the heart against stressful exertion, and inhibits atherosclerosis. Further, he says what we really want to focus in on is that blueberry and bilberry stimulate peripheral circulation. And peripheral circulation means not the arteries, not the veins, but the capillaries, the tiny little blood vessels. This is so important for women because this is where women tend to get the gunk in their blood vessels, is in the tiniest blood vessels. And blueberry helps to move right through that. Now, note that scientific studies use blueberry juice, which is a cooked blueberry product, and that most herbalists who are using blueberries are using dried, not raw blueberries. So we're not talking about eating raw fruit here. We're talking about making sure that the nutrients in our fruit are available to us. The easiest way to do this is just to buy frozen wild blueberries. You get lots and lots of anthocyanins. They're already frozen, and you can turn them into all kinds of wonderful, ways to eat them. 1 glass of cranberry juice daily has been shown to reduce LDL cholesterol, increase HDL cholesterol, combat oxidative stress in the circulatory system, reduce atherosclerosis, increase nitric acid, improve blood vessel dilation, reduce the concentrations of inflammatory compounds in the circulatory system, decrease inflammation in the cardiovascular system, improve the functioning of the lining of the blood vessels, the endothelium, and reduce arterial stiffness. Go out and get yourself some blueberry juice or some cranberry juice right now. Chocolate has remarkably consistent data about its ability to protect the cardiovascular system, lower blood pressure, improve blood flow. Chocolate is just loaded with heart-healthy phytochemicals and antioxidants. In fact, ounce for ounce, chocolate has the most antioxidants of any edible plant. The runner-up is pecans. In third place is red wine. The flavonoids in chocolate are more powerful than vitamin C in limiting oxidation of LDL. In fact, they work overtime to protect all of the lipids. A meta-study of 24 prior studies found that the flavonoids in chocolate lower blood pressure, reduce LDL cholesterol, increase HDL cholesterol, improve blood flow, and counter insulin resistance better than drugs. The abundance of tetramers found in chocolate curbs oxidation of the blood vessel walls and short-circuits the buildup of atherosclerotic plaque. We're talking about 3/4 of an ounce of the darkest chocolate that you will eat on a daily basis. British doctors say if you don't eat some dark chocolate on a daily basis, you don't need to take blood pressure drugs or to take a low-dose aspirin. And guess what? There's a little bit of caffeine and theobromine in chocolate, and they're proven diuretics, which helps lower blood pressure. Theobromine also relaxes the smooth muscles in the walls of the arteries, and so that, again, lowers the blood pressure. Garlic, of course, is known as a heart-healthy herb, or is it a food? Garlic increases the flow of blood to the capillaries and thins out the blood so that the circulatory system can work at a much lower pressure. Garlic also improves the tone of the blood vessels, giving them more strength and more flexibility. Studies are usually done with standardized amounts of allicin rather than the actual garlic. And after 12 weeks of taking garlic pills, most participants lowered their blood pressure by about 10%. That's significant. Lowering, according to a meta-study looking at 21 small studies. Since allicin is changed by heat, it's questionable that these results will translate to eating cooked garlic, but using freeze-dried, granulated, or powdered garlic in your food is the equivalent of taking pills. Garlic is a natural and proven preventer of strokes. It enhances all physiological processes in the cardiovascular system. And it contains a jaune, which is a known antithrombotic agent, which is why garlic is considered such a blood thinner. Hibiscus. Ever had a glass of hibiscus tea or a cup of hibiscus tea? It's so red. It's known as roselle in many places of the world, or Rosa de Jamaica. It has long been used in folk medicine to help those with heart disease, hypertension, and all disorders of the circulation. Science has told us that there are phytonutrients in roselle that do lower blood pressure and kill bacteria and thus reduce inflammation. In fact, extracts and teas and infusions of roselle have significantly changed atherosclerotic plaque, changed lipid levels, and lowered blood pressure. Studies find that drinking 3 cups of roselle tea a day is as effective in lowering blood pressure as taking an ACE inhibitor. The effects of hibiscus tea are especially pronounced in those who are pre-hypertensive or mildly hypertensive. And roselle, although it is a diuretic, does not alter plasma protein levels. and did not change the other minerals in the body. Hooray! Hooray for hibiscus. And it's such an easy plant to enjoy during the summertime. Raisins are dehydrated grapes. As such, they provide a more concentrated dose of nutrients. They're quite high in potassium. 1.5 ounces is going to give us 220 milligrams of potassium. And potassium actually tends to be the thing that helps to lower blood pressure. So it's kind of funny that we get these drugs that lower blood pressure but remove potassium from our body. If you are taking a diuretic to lower blood pressure, you will want to focus in on things like raisins and bananas to get more potassium in your body. Dried plums, formerly called prunes, are an alternative, and if you need a little moving, the prunes are certainly a way to get it. Dairy is an interesting way to lower blood pressure. In research with about 45,000 people, the researchers found that those who consumed yogurt and milk were 16% less likely to develop high blood pressure than those who avoided those things. In another study published in the New England Journal of Medicine, researchers found that people who included dairy in their diet so long as their diet was high in fruits and vegetables had double the blood pressure lowering benefits of those who just ate fruits and vegetables. Let me say that again. We've been talking about lowering blood pressure by eating fruits and vegetables. Including dairy in your diet doubles the ability of those fruits and vegetables to lower your blood pressure. And of course, dairy is high in calcium, which is a blood pressure lowering mineral. Walnuts, 2 ounces a day, will give you about a 3.5-point drop in the upper number and a 3-point drop in the lower number. We believe that walnuts elicit a blood pressure lowering response because of their high content of omega-3 fatty acids, magnesium, monounsaturated fatty acids, and their fiber. The magnesium in walnuts is particularly important because it limits the amount of calcium that enters the muscle cells inside the artery walls. Remember those calcium channel blockers there? Ingesting just the right amount of calcium, not too much and not too little, on a daily basis is essential for optimal blood pressure regulation. And magnesium is what the body uses to regulate calcium's movement across the membranes of the smooth muscle cells deep within your artery walls. When your body doesn't have enough magnesium, too much calcium enters those muscle cells. The arterial muscles tighten, it squeezes the arteries, and it raises blood pressure. Magnesium supplements are not the way to go. Instead, look for foods that are high in magnesium. Lowering blood pressure is really easy with lifestyle and diet. But interestingly enough, it's even easier with some herbs that we're going to be talking about next week. 3 of my favorite herbs: motherwort, hawthorn, and passion flower. And not just because they keep our blood pressure low and help our heart health, but because they themselves are truly remarkable herbs. Thank you, Gemini, for giving me this opportunity to be with you here at Time Monk Radio and to share green blessings with everyone so that we can all reclaim herbal medicine as people's medicine and remind ourselves that our health care truly is in our own hands. We don't have to be one of those Americans who's taking 2.5 drugs a day to deal with high blood pressure.
Thank you, Susan, and we appreciate you joining us here. And this concludes part 51 of our series, The 7 Medicines, The Wise Woman Way with Susan Weed at Time Monk Radio.